Yeah.
Shall I start, Shama?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A very good afternoon to everyone. With great joy, I extend my warm welcome to everyone who is present here. I, Mohin Nishad, today's host for Expert Review Meet, which is organized by Aura Readers Club, Karnataka. Aura e-magazine, which is the voice of women who is successfully working on women's issue. Let's begin the program with the beautiful verses of the Quran, who will be presenting Sister Seema, voice of Sister Seema. I request Sister Seema to present the recitation of the Quran, followed by the translation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Am I audible?
Ji, yes.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم را. تلك آيات الكتاب والذي أنزل إليك من ربك الحق ولكن أكثر الناس لا يؤمنون. الله الذي رفع السماوات بغير عمد ترونها ثم استوى على العرش وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى يدبر الأمر يفصل الآيات لعلكم بلقاء ربكم توقنون. وهو الذي مد الأرض وجعل فيها رواسي وأنهارا ومن كل الثمرات جعل فيها زوجين اثنين يغشي الليل النهار إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. وفي الأرض قطع متجاورات وجنات من أعناب وزرع ونخيل صنوان وغير صنوان يسقى بماء واحد ونفضل بعضها على بعض في الأكل إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يعقلون. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alif Lam Mim Ra. These are the verses of the book, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord is the truth. But most of the people do not believe. It is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see. Then He established Himself above the throne and made subject the sun and the moon, each running its course for a specified term. He arranges each matter. He details the signs that you may of the meeting with your Lord be certain. And it is He who spread the earth and placed therein firmly set mountains and rivers, and from all of the fruits He made therein two mates. He causes the night to cover the day. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. And within the land are neighboring plots and gardens of grapevines and crops and palm trees growing several from a root or otherwise, watered with one water, but we make some of them exceed others in quality of fruit. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reason. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sister Seema. This was the Sister Seema, who was a ZSC member of GIU Karnataka. Today, we have a number of beautiful experts who will be reviewing on our articles of Aura e-magazine. Before jumping to the review meet session part, I firstly welcome our guests, our speakers, Dr. Marwa Khan, Dr. Dhanalakshmi K, Sister Amina Azhar, Sister Madhu Bhushan, Architect Geeta Aviji, Sister Swaliha Asiya, Dr. Tehseen Malik, and Sister Manvi Atharvi. And also our sub-editor and chief editor, Rahmatunisa Saiba, Rahmatunisa, who is the chief editor of Aura e-magazine. Before that, I would like to invite Sister Shaima for introductory address, who is the sub-editor of Aura e-magazine.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon to everybody. And I'm so glad that we can all come here today. And again, I would, although Muhi has done so, I would like to again thank our speakers who have taken the time out and have decided to join us to review Aura e-magazine, to go through the magazine, to take out their precious time. And it is really our honor that people, month after month, almost 2 years now, people are engaging with Aura in this way. Apart from all the other encouragements, supports, comments, critique, submissions that the Aura community makes it possible for us, by which the Aura community makes it possible for us and encourages us every month to bring out yet another issue of Aura. So just on behalf of Team Aura, before the program begins, I would like to briefly introduce the concept behind Aura e-magazine, and also the concept or the idea and the purpose behind such a Readers Club program. So Aura is a women's magazine with a difference. And Aura is a digital English language women's magazine. And our journey is now more than 2 years old, 2.5 years running. And by the grace of God, I think we have managed to bring out an issue every month on time, with an attempt to make it as diverse, inclusive, and also as technically and in terms of content as well as we can possibly do. So Aura, the reason or the thought behind Aura was to redefine, expand, challenge, and sort of go beyond the traditional definition of a women's magazine. There is a lot of space and there is a lot of need for women's magazines, women's writing, writing about women, writing for women, and writing through the prism of what women need in India and beyond. And with that hope, Aura had begun, that we would sort of take the boundaries of what it means to read and write on women's issues, and sort of stretch that and challenge that. At Aura, we believe that the environment is also a women's issue, or an issue for women to ponder upon. Education is an issue for women to ponder upon. Politics, gender, health, religion, all these are issues. And ourselves, our own interior selves, our thoughts, all of these are very valuable concerns on which women must ponder. For example, recently, the Women's Reservation Bill debate is in the works. So for one of the reasons that women's reservation or such kind of representation is emphasized upon is representation per se, that there should be more women in a space, or there should be more of a certain community, a marginalized community in a space. But it is not just about the physical presence or the physical, in this context, the physical need for a magazine. It is also about the fact that when there are women in a certain space, more women in a certain space, they also bring attention and highlight issues that others may not have thought about. So it is also a question of representation as well as a question of discourse. And Aura is trying its best, level best to do that. So far, if you look at our issues, there are a complexity of issues that we have sort of tried to address. And as time passed, we realized that Aura needs kind of a feedback mechanism, a loop through which we can stay in touch with our readers, and have an open space, a very open space where our readers can sort of correct us, critique us, challenge our views as honestly as possible, or give us advice on our content, layout, design, and so on and so forth. And through that mechanism, also have a conversation on the topics that are at hand. So the review is not a very dry review in the sense of not just a review of like, okay, this could be good, this could be bad, but also often it turns very organically turns into a discussion about the topics that are discussed in the monthly magazine. So far it has been a wonderful experience for us at Aura, and we try to incorporate each suggestion that is possible to incorporate that all of you bring. And this meeting too is a continuation of that process. And I'm really happy to see the lineup, and we're really looking forward to listening to all of you and your suggestions. So thank you so much. That is all from me. And now I hand it back over to the moderator. And again, I would like to also tell you that since all of you have read Aura now and you sort of started engaging with Aura, I would encourage you to now begin writing for Aura, thinking about Aura, and also sort of telling others to contribute for Aura, because that is how a magazine grows. Thank you so much, and thank you, Muhi, and back to you.
Thank you, Sister Shaima. So let's come to the main part, review by our experts. For this, firstly, I would like to invite Dr. Marwa Khan, who is a bachelor, who did Bachelor's of Medicine and Bachelor's of Surgery, is an artist from Aurangabad. She will be talking about healthy diet. Over to you, Sister Marwa Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the organizers for having me here. Aura e-magazine is a great initiative for all the women from different communities and fields to come together and share their opinion and knowledge on different issues around us. I took an overview of the magazine, and there were various topics for the readers to choose from. And one such topic of my interest was a balanced diet, what it is and how to achieve it. The topic was rightly chosen because a lot of people tend to neglect this aspect in their lives. The write-up was very reader-friendly, and it started off with a definition of balanced diet. It's a diet that contains adequate amounts of nutrients, calories, vitamins, and minerals required by the body to function properly. The article was nicely bifurcated into subtopics, like the importance of balanced diet in children. It's essential for their physical, mental, and emotional growth. Children are there in their growing years, and the nutritional and lifestyle habits that they inculcate in childhood will affect the quality of life in the future. Moving on to the section of how to achieve a balanced diet, this was explained in simplified terms for everyone to understand so that achieving a balanced diet seems achievable. Like a list of what to eat and what not to eat was mentioned. One must include more of proteins, nuts, fruits and vegetables, and avoid processed foods. Drinking lots of water to hydrate yourself is an important aspect because 70% of the human body is water. Balanced diet includes not only what we eat, but how we eat and when to eat. Remember to have foods in their raw forms as much as possible and not overcook them. Because heating food tends to nullify the nutritive value of food. Have meals at fixed timings and avoid late night dinners just prior to sleep. All these points are backed up by science and are in accordance with the Prophet's teachings of having meals in moderation. I'd like to add a few additional points by giving everyone mini reality checks. Majority of the people wake up in the morning and the first thing they want is a cup garam chai. In this, they put 2 to 3 spoons of sugar, and many have 2 to 3 cups of coffee or chai per day. And just imagine the amounts of sugar intake that is going inside them. And on top of that, they have khari, oily parathas, and toast and whatnot. Then, when it comes to cooking, people put so much oil in everything just for the sake of taste that they don't bother, just compromising the health for it. And nowadays, it has become a trend to go to cafes, to go to fancy restaurants and have bakery items, junk food, and everyone's all-time Zomato and Swiggy is available all the time. And just on the click of a button, they have their favorite dish delivered at home. And many times, whenever a child gets hungry, what do mothers do? They just cook instant noodles. That's like just 2 minutes Maggie and they give it to the child. So we need to understand that no doubt the child's stomach is getting full. Uh, just empty calories were given to the child and there was no nutritive value added to it. So all these unhealthy habits, they lead to various health problems like hypertension, obesity. PCOS is so much on a rise for females, young females, and diabetes. And the mechanism of all of this process is very simple. Like whatever you have, the sugars, the increased food, fatty foods, oils, it all gets deposited in your body in various organs, like leading to, for example, fatty liver. And in blood vessels, it can lead to the blockage of blood vessels, which is known as atherosclerosis. And this may even precipitate a heart attack in the future. Last but not the least, I'd like to focus on a very important aspect, that is mental diet. Because along with eating healthy, it is equally necessary to monitor what thoughts we are feeding in our minds. We should avoid negative thoughts and overthinking and try to focus on the positive aspects in life. Now, why I'm saying this is because mental health problems like OCD, anxiety, depression, these all are a risk factor for developing psychiatric eating disorders. For example, binge eating, where a person loses control and has lots of like large amounts of food in one go. So regular exercise is a great way of achieving a good health and avoiding such problems. Many people have an excuse, ki time nahi milta, so they like have an excuse of not being able to go to the gym for some reason or the other. So home workouts are a good alternative to it as well. Walking for 15 to 20 minutes is beneficial for the body's overall health. So to conclude, I'd like to say that our bodies, it's a gift from Allah. So we must take care of it. So I just hope that you all will follow and benefit from the tips mentioned and opt for healthy choices to lead a healthy life. Thank you everyone for your attention. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Sister Marwa. Next, we will go for second speaker, Dr. Dhanalakshmi K, who is Associate Professor, Department of MBA, Acharya Institute of Graduate Studies, Bangalore. She will be talking about how to develop children's all-round mental development.
A very
Dr.
happy evening.
Dhanalakshmi. Yes, please.
Yeah, happy evening to one and all. And I'm very happy to be one of the panel member and share the views of the Aura magazine. And I also appreciate for the efforts given by the editors and the chief editors and the sub editors to bring forward the Aura magazine, especially for women and women development and the challenges which the women are facing. So one among them, the article magazines which I referred, I was liked by the mental development of the children. Today, the practical issue which we have been facing a lot is on mental health. Most of the students have the problem of facing with physical health, emotional health, social health, etc., etc. But with now the biggest hub, which all the Indians, as well as being the mothers of our kids, we have to take care of the mental development of our children. The first and foremost, I love the article written by Noor Fatima, which was translated by Mumtaz, on how to develop the children's mental development. So one thing which I liked in it was she narrated with saying that there are two types of brains in the brain system, the left brain and the right brain, very truly right. And mostly we all use the right brain more and not the left brain. So she also explained with narrations of her parenting and how body language is very, very much essential. And we have to tune the children, especially on the body language, and also keep pre-equipped the students in the social interactions and not on the screens most of the time. But today, the practical problem, what we are facing is our parents are busy in their work schedules, and we do not take care of the children's mental health. We only care on their homeworks. We only care on their physical work, physical health, as well as we only care about their majorly on their studies, academics, and curricular activities. But because of the technology and the usage of technology, and more students have been using the technology for their academics work also, they are losing a lot of social interactions. In our days, we were more preoccupied with the social interactions. But this is one of the drawbacks for the development of the mental activity for our kids. The children, first and foremost, I request all the parents, please leave them at least for 15 minutes in a day to have a social interaction among their friends or among their neighbors. But please do not permit them to use their mobile phone or any technology gadgets. Or at least if this is not possible, because we know both the spouses are working and we have a less time to engage with our kids. So the next alternative thing which we can do for them at home is at least interact with them, at least in a day for about 30 minutes, spend a valuable time with them. And I love the article where Fatima Noorha has very clearly written. The very beautiful thing she has written is on the body language. Yes, today our students have to be molded on the body language. They are not aware at all. And kids are always have a fear of confidence and shyness. And it is we, the parents, who have to bloom them up to have a very good confidence levels, and as well as they not to be as an introvert. And I love Nurja has very clearly written that shyness or introverts are not said to be as an intelligent people. They are intelligent, but only the problem is they don't come forward. And all this can be brought forward only when we start thinking about how we can solve the problem of our mental health of the student with our children at home itself. Now, how do we do that? The first and foremost step which I would like to give you all is, please ask your children when they're watching their mobile phones or watching the TV to keep both their hands in this way, because both the left hand and the right hand starts vibrating and they're functioning very well. And this is also called as one of the hand mudra, which is very good for the mental development. The second, please do not leave them idle. Get them preoccupied with you. Take them wherever you are going so that they have enough time joining with us and knowing what are the problems we are facing, as well as how we are managing our day-to-day operational activity. This enables even our kids to learn that how to manage even the crisis, the problems, and the challenges in future. Because kids are today not only the action oriented, but they observe a lot us. So how we behave, how we talk, how we approach, this is very, very much important even for our kids to teach them. And this is especially happens when they are together with us. So always please give more time with them. This is very much important to improve their mental ability. The second thing is, instead of making them to watch TV or the mobile phones or any of the social media things, please give them lot of the activities for them. So what are the activities we can give for them? The activities could be like problem solving or money handling or complex situations and crises, and ask them, how do you manage this? And how do you handle this? Because that makes them to know what is the thought process they are moving ahead, and they will start improving a lot. And not only that, we ask in the school only to mold the students majorly for the reading or presentation skills. But this can also be done at home. where we have to tell our children more and more present in front of me. What are you doing it? How are you doing it? Let me see. Give a topic for them randomly. Okay, we are going for a vegetable market. Take any product like a carrot and ask them speak about that for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and they will not be able to speak, or they will not be able to recollect the points. But today, these kids are very, very, very extrovert, and they are very extra active also. They are the one who collects the information very well. But only the problem with them is they will not come forward until we make them to push forward. So we ensure that our students come forward with the mental abilities only when we develop them through a very good mental health. So finally, I conclude that with the acronym of M. M is nothing but mental, that is M, which stands for mental. So what do I say is your mindset. Cultivate the habit of the kids in such a way with a positive mindset. Make them to learn to be very silent, cool, and calm. That's very, very much important for the kids. Today, we find the Generation Z and the Alpha generation kids are very chaos and multitasked. But please ask them to be silent, calm, and also look for the positive approach. E. E always stands for being empathetic. Let them understand what the problems we are being facing, which makes them to move forward. N, and N stands for observe the behavior, normal behavior or abnormal behavior they've been facing with. And please, please observe this a lot. And when when you find your kid is facing an abnormal behavior, like being silent or very much reserved, and they're not mingling with you, please pay the attention towards them. Recently, you could have seen the Tollywood actor Vijay Antony's daughter who expired and committed suicide because of the depression. So it's because of the parents were not paying much attention, or the child was not expressive enough towards their parents. It's all because of the time which we have to spend with them. So N is all about the normal behavior. T, please give them the time. Time is very much important. Give the parents, I request both the spouses, balance your work-life balance in such a way. Engage with a lot with your kids. That matters a lot for their mental happiness and as well as for the mental ability. And the last L, do not leave them to be all alone. Loneliness is also one of the biggest problems which today the kids are facing. Many parents, they lock them and they go to manage their day-to-day operational activities. Staying alone or watching for a long time the social media and the screening and video screening or whatever it is, that's making them to be boredom, fatigue, as well as lethargic. So let us overcome all these things, because mental development and the mental health is the biggest hub of India's awareness, where the parents as well as everybody have to be aware of it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Dhanalakshmi. Next, our speaker is Sister Amna Azhar, who is a student, published poet, entrepreneur, editor-in-chief, the Carmel Beat, who will be talking about Chandrayaan 3. Over to you, sister. Sister Amna Azhar. Sister, am I audible?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Sister, you're not audible. Amna Azhar.
Am I audible now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, you can start now.
Yeah. Please interrupt if I'm not audible. Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying is, it is a pleasure to be on this panel with all of you today. And I picked up the editorial piece for September. And considering that I am the editor-in-chief of the monthly newsletter, The Kamal Beat, I felt like this was appropriate because I myself write the editorial piece. So, looking at this review, my review is going to be rather technical rather than intellectual, philosophical, ideological, because there will be differences that different magazines propagate. But I was looking at the editorial in more, and I looked at the overall editorial, not just the Chandrayaan part, the entire editorial. So it's going to be more of a technical review on what worked and what didn't work as a reader personally, and as somebody with some sort of editorial experience. So what definitely did work for me was the diverse range of topics that were explored. So now, considering that it is a magazine, you do have a variety of topics, and this was covered quite well in the magazine. There was, and it was also very fitting with the social philosophy of the magazine. Also, there was a lot of very thought-provoking questions that were raised. Now, questions that simulated interest immediately. You had things. There was this one question that stuck with me that said, "Who stands for teachers and their freedom to speak and think?" So these are questions that are not always asked in the mainstream. So I appreciate that being brought up. Also, in the first part of the editorial, the very strong use of contrast. Now you have. The contrast between India's space achievements and then the ongoing social issues, which was brought in very well. So you're showing usually what we call in literature the definition by negation. So this is something that's expressed very well and catches immediate interest. Also, the inclusivity and diversity, considering that there was mentions of old, like historical teachers in now and current. You had women scientists, all of that, and also the topics being timely enough. Now we had Teachers' Day, we had Suicide Prevention Month, and we had the No Violence, which means there were a variety of issues explained, but also they continued to be relevant in terms of them being extremely timely to September. Now, what a very big concern for me was that when reading this editorial, it didn't read as an editorial at all. The issue that I saw there is it seemed more like a letter from the editor's desk, a note from the editor's desk, because what happens as we define um, an editorial, we define an editorial as a newspaper article expressing the editorial opinion on a topical issue. So an editorial is something that takes the stance of the newspaper on one particular topic. Now, one of the speakers was talking about the women's reservation bill. So the editorial would probably take up a topic like that and elaborate on that. Or now, when you mentioned the three different things, the Teachers' Day violence, suicide prevention, Teachers' Day, the Suicide Prevention Month, and the No Violence, if you were looking at a gender perspective, you could bring in all three and see how how it affects the woman population specifically. So an editorial, calling this an editorial, didn't seem right to me, considering that it completely negates. You can call it a note from the editor. It was more a summary of what was covered in the issue, but that does not become an editorial. So that was definitely something that I was a little confused about. Another major thing for me was the use of lengthy sentences. Now we know that right now there's a lot of emphasis, and especially when you study literature, when you study film studies and all of that, there's a lot of emphasis on the use of silences, on the uses of breaks, all of that. So what I'm sorry, I think my voice is not very clearly visible, but I will continue. Please interrupt me if you can't hear me. So what I was saying is the use of spaces, especially in filmmaking, you have the use of silences. So in literature and in writing, what we thrive on is the use of short, powerful sentences. And I felt like a lot of these sentences were largely dragged on, and that tends to lose a little bit of attention, connectivity, all of that. So maybe more focus on shorter, very stark sentences would be appreciated. Now, there was one sentence that really took a stand. So let me just look at that article. It says the sanctity of life is vital to the progress of the world. So sentences like that are short, they grab attention, but they need to be substantiated, especially when you're using short, powerful sentences. Now, in appropriation to the target audience, considering that this is a magazine for and by women, something that I did, something that raised a concern for me was, is it entirely for women? Where does the woman's angle come in? But I am a first time reader of Aura magazine, and I looked at the editorial. I didn't look at all the articles in detail, but when there's promise of it being for women and bringing in women's issues, then I would wonder how would the gender lens be applicable here. Is it an equal part gender lens and social lens? But I saw a lot of social issues played at, but the context of women in this issue, I didn't see much of that played. And now we had a poem on the free press, which was brilliantly, wonderfully written, but there was the issue of not seeing an appropriation to the target audience, specifically what's promised to be a woman's magazine. I didn't see that lens play into it, so that was definitely a concern for me. Also, when in the editorial the topics are explained, now I didn't feel like there were enough examples to substantiate and for it to read like a well researched article, because from somebody who is writing, now when there's a variety of topics, that tends to happen, we tend to be vague, we don't explore the nuances of each. So I think definitely if one topic is picked, it might read a bit more well researched. Now, talking about that, there was something mentioned about caste violence that came in, and I'm assuming that's in relation to the new issue that's currently going on, but I am unsure what that was about because there weren't enough examples there. Now, when you had suicide prevention and you had caste violence, the immediate example that would pop into somebody who has done their research would be the case of Rohit Vemula, which would be ideal to bring in a circumstance like this. So I feel like more examples would be appreciated. There was a listing of examples, I did see that. But again, there I believe that it's important to first bring in examples that are universally known. I understand that there's a representations of the margin, representations of smaller issues here, but I do believe that it's important to grab the reader's attention through a universal example, bring in a bigger example that attracts attention, and then move to what exactly you're trying to get at. So lastly, one thing that I felt would be that that everything was tried to be threaded together, like all the different topics. It's a variety, it's a plethora of topics, considering that it is a magazine. So it was trying to be threaded together, and I felt like too much, it looked like effort was being too much effort was being made into that, considering that it is a magazine. You have the liberty to write on a variety of topics, so you don't have to justify the topics that you're writing on. I felt like there was some effort put into that justification, which I don't feel was very required. The last thing that I will come to is that a lot of problems were explored, and um, in the moral economy of the middle class, we have a sufficient problem pool, is what I believe, and definitely they have to be spoken about. But there was a very limited focus on the solutions. Personally, is what I feel, be it in at a smaller level or a larger one. But I don't think I definitely think that delving into problems along with some sort of sustainable solutions with that would definitely help the magazine. I Please take all this advice with a pinch of salt, because as an editor myself, I am looking to achieve perfection in my writing, in the editorials that I write. So a lot of this feedback is coming from that place, very critical of me as a writer and the things that I would definitely want to change. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Ramina. Next, we'll come to Madhu Bhushan, Sister Madhu Bhushan, who is an independent feminist, activist, researcher in SATES and Gamana Mahila Samuha, who will be talking about gender and religion, feminism at the crossroad. Madhu Bhushan, sister, you're over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is my voice clear?
Yes, yes, sister. You can
Okay.
continue.
Yeah. Thank you to Mara and for inviting me and having this kind of a regular review of their magazine with what, as Shaima was talking about earlier, said it's a magazine with a difference, and it truly is, I think. And listening to her talk, it took me back many years ago, many decades ago, to the 80s when we started the women's bookshop in Bangalore, which was called Sri Lekha, to the first feminist bookshop, where we said that we will sell, we will have not to sell, but really gather women's writings and women's thoughts on not just the usual issues, especially at that time, which was a fashion and cookery, but really that of all issues are women's. So it really took me back to that time. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this review. And just a few words about magazine itself. I'm really glad Moira kind of way forced me to read it. I've been reading about it, but I haven't actually read it. And when I read it, I was very, very pleasantly kind of surprised and very happy to see the kind of not only the quality of production is very well done, but also the very vast and eclectic and thought-provoking articles that you try to bring in. Now, regarding the specific articles that I myself, addressed myself to first, when Mora said, choose what you want, I went the May 2023 edition, which is called Reviving Feminine Strength. I skimmed through many articles, but I picked out a respond to because it's not so much a review that I'll be doing, but also engaging with the kind of ideas and the thoughts contained in those few articles that I read. One, of course, is Saima Sabreen's Women Religions, and Faiza Sharafuddin's De-Radicalized, and Adya Nasreen's Indian Feminist Atrocities. These was what got my curiosity. So I read those. So my primary. To start with Saima's, let me also start with, while I'm talking about women in religion, I must confess that I am not a very religious person. I happen to be born into this, into the community called Hindus, but I'm not a practicing. I'm not a practicing Hindu. And I have a lot of respect for people of faith, but I myself have evolved my faith in many different ways. But yes, one has engaged with the issue of religion because I think, especially as a women's rights activist, religion and all the kind of social institutions of our society is something that we have engaged with to understand, how patriarchy works, and how it has really impacted on women's lives and women's reality. Reading Simon's article, it was interesting to see that she started with the caveat, which is expected the most positive representation of women's class, and she claims that it is not a very comprehensive summary. And I'm glad she has said that. For much as she has quoted the very positive elements of various religious texts, the tragedy is that these are not the texts that are quoted by those who interpret religion. There's one thing for the text of religion and another thing for the context, the way it gets interpreted and who interprets. This is also very, very important. And like I said, the women's movement that I've been part of has always had a troubled relationship, institutionalized religions and the kind of patriarchal cultures that they spawned.
Ma'am, your voice is a bit going in and out. It's not very clear.
I'll just try and just give me a second because I think there's a problem with my computer.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
I'll try and log in from my phone.
Yeah, no problem.
1 minute. I'll just log out.
Yeah.
Maybe meanwhile, shall we call the next speaker?
Okay, Auntie.
Or can we wait? Yeah, no, I think she has joined.
Yeah, I think we
Oh.
should wait because then she'll lose her
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah, she has joined.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, I was talking about the relationship of the women's movement with institutionalized religions, and how, you know, there is this understanding that most religions have in a way legitimized, you know, patriarchal practices and patriarchal values and norms and patriarchal politics. For I think more or less all of them have painted women as much as, you know, Saima has in her has brought out the opposite, which I'm sure is also there in the text. But I think, like I said, what is practiced or what is actually stated in in the patriarchal world that we live are those values which paint women as physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually inferior to men. So to just quote some of the things that she says and which I will engage with, like quoting from many, like she in one of the sections which talks of respect for both genders, she talks of how most of the texts, you know, whether it's the Quran or the Bible or the Vedas, you know, all of them talk of how they should, you know, respect the people should respect, you know, the advice given is that you must respect your mothers and fathers, which is true. I think respect for everybody is absolutely essential and important. But I think when one just quotes it without the context, it could get also, you know, used once again to reinforce a certain kind of, you know, patriarchy. For instance, you know, yes, you need to, you know, respect your mother and father. But I think when you look at, you know, the incidents of dishonor killings by parents that are happening today, when their daughters decide to exercise their right to choose their partners, or when they choose different gender or sexual identity, which they think is abnormal, you know, how then can one, you know, continue to respect? You can love them, but how do you respect them when they are, you know, when they deliberately kind of choose to not only dishonor the girl's choice, but, you know, literally kill her, which is what has happened. I think everyone knows what has been happening, including recently in Kolar. So like I said, these texts need to be read a little carefully because the texts are products of their context and time, but we also need to constantly read them in the present time and context, where there's greater focus also on rights, democracy, constitutional values and norms, etc. And so we need to keep constantly comparing the two. Then she talks of, you know, under the looking at the importance of women. She says how many texts, you know, affirm that women are crucial to the fabric of the society, you know, because they have contributed in several fields, you know, be it not just, you know, the household, but also in business, in, you know, in education, in public health, etc., etc. And for example, she says, you know, in Bible that Bible it is said that the woman's value exceeds that of pearls. Or there is an incident where she quotes of when the prophets tell somebody who wants to go to for jihad to stay with his mother, for paradise is below her feet. So these are all very, very important, you know, issues that you know that she has quoted, and when it comes to education of women, etc., etc. But I think, like I said, you know, we have to constantly see how. I'm sorry, I think you want me to conclude. Okay, I'll just try to finish. So I think we have to see what is the reality of the text and the reality that with the text and context, you know, of when the time when this was written and the text and context of today. I think it's important to see that. I would then maybe a few. I'll conclude with a few. Let me just go back to what I had read. Yeah, just a couple of other points I want to say. You know, there's one section where she talks about the right to marry. And I think there's little doubt that Islam when she's quoting from the text, there's little doubt that Islam has set the highest standard for marriage by making it a contract and making consent of women that is very, very central to it. But unfortunately, as we have seen, as I've seen personally in the course of my own work, while this is that is a fact, the other fact is also that domestic violence continues to be an equal reality. While women have the right, it might be so that in the text they've said that women's consent should be taken, but the fact is that domestic violence, I think, continues across religions, classes, castes, etc., etc. But I also like what when she quotes, and I think the importance of an article like this, where she is kind of bringing out the positive, where she's quoting from the different texts, and when she's quoting different women, who have figured in these texts, who have really gone against the grain and really stood up against patriarchy. In that sense, I think it brings to mind. I'd like what she quotes from Maya Angelou is very, very relevant, where she says, "You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you will kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I will rise." For I think what this points out to is that yes, patriarchy is something that is time immemorial, but we need to keep finding, the Khadijas and the various other women whom she has quoted to prove that there was resistance and defiance of these norms too. Yes, you want me to stop?
You can conclude in a minute, madam.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, so just to the last point I would like to end with is that I'd just like to quote again from another article which I found very, very interesting, which was Nadia Nasreen's very well articulated critique of mainstream feminism, which I'm very much in agreement with. Because what she says is right, because there's no one feminism, there are many feminisms, and there's no one women's movement. There have been many women's movements, and it's this plurality, I think, that is very, very important to affirm. But the central to the notion of, I think, all these feminisms has always been the issue of autonomy and the issue of choice. Like for example, she speaks of an interesting episode from a national conference that the women's movement had in 2006, where there was a big debate and conflict between bar dancers and Dalit feminist groups. The Dalit feminist groups did not accept the profession of bar dancing because they felt that it is patriarchal and very casteist, since most of the women who are in this profession are largely Dalit women who are forced into this profession. But on the other hand, the bar dancers felt that it is their autonomy and their choice, and it has given them the freedom to really deal with patriarchy in their own lives. So talking about this, Nadia says that, I'll just quote what she says because I think that's very important. She says that with the emergence of autonomous mobilization of women from marginalized communities is important. Dalit and Muslim women have to address themselves rather than be addressed by their own men or non-Muslim or non-Dalit women. Liberating the voices of minority women not only questions the homogenization of the dominant feminist discourse, but also prevents the marginalization of subaltern identities. I think I will end with this, and if there's more discussion, we can come back to it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, I would like to call Geeta VG, who is a practicing architect, principal designer, executive committee member, Flora Arcade Consultancy from Bangalore. She will be talking about can all teachers replace. Over to you, architect Geeta, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening to everybody. And today I was pretty impressed. First of all, I would like to thank the Aura team for having me here to discuss about a couple of topics which could interest me. And what I find is the teachers are special and teachers are teachers. The cover story written by Dr. S. Reshma Praveen is pretty impressive for me to discuss because I'm an architect and I do know how artificial intelligence sometimes creep into our practice as well. And then I also like the fact that there are two sides of a coin into this, It's a single coin which has two sides. AI is a technology and a development and we need to evolve. We cannot reject any development. It does happen, and we need to know only how to do it and when to do it. And when it comes to teachers, what happens is, in which fraternity we are going to talk about is, see, first of all, as mothers, we should understand that mothers are the first teachers to a child. And secondly, mothers and teachers play a vital role in the first 3 to 5 years of the formative years, where they go into the, the LKG, the UKG, and this area. We do not need any AI. We need a lot of connect with the child to get that. So and we also know that the first 8 years, what children learn is the most important and vital things that they learn. And then beyond that is just about, how life goes around, certain things, some values and things. So having said that, when we talk about technology, it comes with a pinch of salt. There are certain things like, even the mobile came in, even we, it's in AI, what happens is, we were just discussing broadly how we actually talk about it. See, now it is about getting a fact, and that fact in AI comes like, it is a fact, and it comes in different versions. Okay, there were days when there is a word and we would open the dictionary and get to see, alphabetically what it is, and then the next alphabet, what comes to the first alphabet, and then get the meaning. So much of work would go into just getting the right word in a dictionary. Now, does that happen? Now we just go to the Google, what does that mean? And then we just do that. And sometimes even children use the voice. They don't even want to type. So this is how it happens. So now, having said that, at what age should we expose the children to AI? Should it come from the right source? And what is that source? The teacher herself. The teacher herself is the right source. During the formative years, that is 3 to 5 and 5 to 14, where up to 7th standard, we don't really need it. And from the 8th and 9th and 10th, slowly the children, the teachers can start getting them through the process, how to use the AI and when to use the AI, and the pros and cons of it. So by the time the mental growth happens to the child, he or she knows how to go about using the AI as an information base. And when it comes to discussion, because many a times it sounds like a podcast, like a webinar. When we're talking, we're just talking. One person is talking. There is less chance for interaction. So that way, I agree that we need a lot of interaction and a lot of agreeing to disagree, and a bigger perspective as to knowing something as a fact, and then talking about it, or just going through it, experimenting on it. So the teachers need to allow this to happen as a process in their higher grades. So then slowly they mature into the college level. And having said that, in the formative years, we are very focused on the building of a child and not bringing up a child. That's a very wrong notion that we just bring up a child. That is the version we generally use by mothers. It is not about bringing up. We need to bring up as well as build the child. So what happens is, we work on two things. That is the IQ and the EQ. IQ is the intelligence quotient, and the emotional quotient is equally balanced, equally poised. There used to be one class called the moral science in school. So it's slowly weaning away. We don't really have that class at all anymore. We just talk about it and just get through it. So these are the things which are lacking. So what happens is, the cover story, she is dealt in 4 parts, and there's the social interaction, and because that is very important and very vital, that the children, as much as they are used to the gadgets, they don't even interact with people. And that is when we ask them a choice, do you like to read a book, or how is it, do you want to listen? They prefer a podcast. Then we had to tell them how a podcast is just somebody is actually bombarding information to their head. Do we really have to accept it? So we'll have to ask the child, question it. Just allow them to question it. And second thing is, I don't like to say that, teachers and mothers who are the first teachers, we always have to know that saying a no to something is not a conclusive factor at all. We need to say, yes, there is something like this. Yes, we need to understand it. We need to see both the sides of the coin and then understand how to use it. And this makes, whether we want it or not, the child is going to access the AI facts. They will go through this. So what we need to do is we have to actually, as rightly said by one of the speakers, the exposure to the screen time, filter the process of learning, and we'll have to tell them, see, in an AI, you're getting information, but not the knowledge. And the knowledge comes through age, experience, and how things go. Because when COVID happened, all the children just went past us and they had to sit on the laptop. The teachers had to equip, mothers had to equip quickly. And see, we could stop it. Anyway, we couldn't stop it and we had to grow over it. And this is what happens when we say teachers will have to be equipped first. Yes, they'll have to be taught how to go about it, because even a teacher needs to evolve, a mother needs to evolve, because we cannot be everything happens, everything goes through an evolution, and that we should not be stopping it also. Because, and second thing is what I would like to reiterate is the lateral thinking and the creative mind, which is more relevant in our field, of course, in the long run as well. But how in children, what happens is much exposure to AI is because they are exposure to facts. Okay, this is this, this is this. So what happens is the lateral thinking and the creative mind, or what the author has put across is very right. That becomes a little, tamed down. So we need, rather it is actually slowly weaning off. So what we need to do is promote how to go through it. Let's start, make the child read it, get the facts right, and then start reading it, and then discuss it with your peers, discuss it with your teachers, discuss it with your mother, parents, because everybody has got the Google for information. Even the mother, even the teacher, even the parents, most of them are working, and every mother is pretty educated now. And even, I tell you, even the rural mothers have a lot to say how it goes. They have their own experiences to actually complement. Both these things are two sides of the coin, and we should very much accept that there is nothing no to this, but there is a holistic approach, which was rightly put, that 360-degree learning with all sides and all parameters considered. That is what is required in grooming up a child. And the teacher and the mother and the student becomes very important in a very collaborative mindset where people work together. All these three work together, and AI is process. It becomes an education mode, slowly bringing into the child's, every child's way, because there is an emotional connect. They'll have to be brought into it. Saying no to something is actually kind of very derogatory. We should let them happen, but in a very methodical, processed manner. Is that all? Is that the time I have?
You can conclude in a minute, sister.
Okay, that's fine with me. And I think because I see a lot of doctors here, and I saw some, some authors and many women here, because when we're addressing, this is a very nice book, but magazine, which is coming up monthly. I think we should promote both parents, whether it is gender neutral, both should read this, because all are educated. That gives the version. There is a man in every woman, and a woman in every man. There should be, because these days the rules are played. So when we educate each other and get the right versions, I think the child comes in a beautiful manner, and we expose the technology in the right manner to the children as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sister. Next, we have our content strategist, Sister Swaleha Asia, who will be talking about Muslims in popular shows, transition of women character. Over to you, sister. Sister Swaleha Asia, sorry.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, you are clear.
All right. So I have picked from the contemporary discourse from the special edition of the Aura, written by Sister Samar Ali, titled Muslims in Popular Shows, Transitions of Women Characters. After having gone through this particular article, if I had to briefly summarize what this is about, the writer has largely picked shows popular in the which is largely popular in the West, and laid bare the open secret of internalized Islamophobia that most Western productions have in them, specifically in the way Muslims and Muslim characters are represented in popular television shows. In the very beginning of the article, she quotes a study from the New York Times written by Noor Ghazal Aswad, which quotes that Muslim immigrants are dehumanized by constantly featuring them as invaders. So the association of Muslim names and characters with that of terrorists, illegal immigrants, or victims in the print, digital, and broadcast media has been pointed out and criticized over the years. So her observation with regards to many of these shows is that these television productions in the West, these mainstream shows that have been popular, that have become popular in the late 2000s, they have usually uh, misconstrued the representation of Muslims into these binaries of either being a victim or a terrorist. It's either of the two, and there is actually no nuanced representation of a Muslim character. That is what she has mostly highlighted in this particular article. And overall, the writer has rightly pointed out that the manufactured narrative surrounding Muslims, leading to strong narrative of popular resentment against the community. Now, how this is done is the association of Muslim names and characters with that of a terrorist and illegal immigrants or victims, etc. Because till the 1990, she points out that no lead characters uh, in popular television sitcoms were that of with a Muslim name or a background. But after the late 2000s, there was a sudden onset of dangerously misrepresented Muslim characters in shows, and she has very beautifully categorized the shows and the episodes and the seasons in which she has observed these instances of you can call Islamophobia, and and she has beautifully also raised the question about whether Muslimness, just the process of Muslimness, whether that is not enough, whether that is not progressive enough to break stereotypes. So similarly, the writer provides many different examples of Muslim women characters as well. So what after having read this particular article, what went through my mind is that over the years there has been some form of evolution in the way the Muslim characters are being portrayed in the television productions abroad. Basically, with the change in times, I think now people are becoming more aware about Muslim representation in popular TV shows. So now the TV productions are putting in the work, putting in the research to bring about accurate representation as opposed to it used to be in the early 2000s. So case in point, she talks about the latest premiered show, which is Miss Marvel, in which the protagonist Kamala she's unabashedly resilient and she disproves all sorts of typecasting against South Asian Muslim women. But despite certain poor attempts to link the superheroine heroine character to her heritage by evoking the folkloric jinn elements, Miss Marvel remains a milestone in the history of pop culture inclusivity. So there is still a long way to go wherein Muslim representation is done in a manner that is befitting to the entire community. So the interesting thing to note here is that with the times, the TV productions are making some changes in how Muslim representation is done, right, albeit at a snail's pace. So yeah, that's all I have to say on this particular article. And if I had to in terms of critique, if I had to bring in just one point, that would be with regards to the context of the article. I would have appreciated it more if the case studies which he elaborated in terms of the TV shows uh, that way from the West, if we could have a similar article, perhaps dissecting the TV shows with the Muslim representation within our own national context, and we take the discourse forward from there. How we can make it better, how we can have our community be like more inclusive on a national front as well. Yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Next speaker is Dr. Tehseen Malik, who is a doctor of Ayurvedic medicine and hijama therapy, UAE, Bachelor of Ayurvedic medicine and surgery. She will be talking about beyond skin deep beauty, understanding the long-term effects of cosmetics. Over to you, Dr. Tehseen Malik.
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum all. Am I audible?
Yes, sister, you're audible.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, all our team, for having me over. And it is a great, pleasure and an experience to review an article. And through this exercise, I was able to go through very informative and, informative, full of knowledge articles while I was going through the entire, different versions of each month versions of your publishing. I'm going to review an article today by an author, Ayman Nisar, who is a Master of Pharmacy student at Delhi Pharmaceutical Sciences. And she has written a very relevant article in today's time for the generation that is going to come now, and also for the generation, upcoming, also for the generations that, you can say also for the age group that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. The article is called Beyond Skin Deep Beauty, Understanding the Long-Term Effects of Cosmetics. This is very relevant and very close to me. It instantly strike a bell, because when I practice, I see a lot of patients. Now, let me tell you, my niche is usually, women suffering from hormonal imbalances, infertility, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So this is a very relevant article for the women of today's time. I would say women, and to an extent men also, because when you open a shelf, in your wardrobe or in your dressing table, you are for sure going to find, skincare products, personal care products, makeup products, and consciously or subconsciously we use them on the daily basis. But we have to know what are the implications of the use of these products over a long period of time. Now here, the author very rightly speaks about, what are the effects of this makeup on our body, and also gives us the information as to how we can avoid that. The article is short and concise, but I would say it is very informative. And also it opens a door to a lot more information and a lot more exploration. In today's day and age where we are, we are, what do you say, we are directed by media, social media, advertising, marketing. We are actually, you can say, brainwashed or controlled by the advertisements that we see on recurrent daily basis. This article is an eye-opener. It is an eye-opener for the girls who are upcoming, who will be the mothers in their next coming 10 years or even more, because it is going to be a foundation for them, what they pass on to their next generation. From kajal to lipstick to blush to mascara, and then beyond that there are other more higher types, concealers, to different products of makeup that we use. We use them as a part of our beauty regime, as a part of our skincare regime, hair care regime, knowingly, unknowingly, as I said, on day-to-day basis. Now, we have to understand that these products are used on our skin. And our skin is the largest organ of our body, if we all, try and think about it. It is the largest organ of our body. It has many functions, from protection to immunity to synthesis of vitamin D, to excretion of toxins through the perspiration. It has many, many functions. And this skin, the author has mentioned that this skin, there was a survey regarding this, which is called Local Circle Survey in 2020. And this survey covered 37,000 people, and the results were concerning. This survey included people who were using skincare products on day-to-day basis, and this survey actually figured out what are the challenges that they face on a short-term basis. And on the short-term basis, the survey showed a result that a huge number of people had allergic reactions, which they were not aware that it is because of the products that they are using. Now, what you put on your skin is absorbed by your body, and there is again a different study that was done that almost 64% of what we put on our skin can be absorbed. Sometimes even more, sometimes even less, but 64 is an average amount that can be absorbed by our skin. Now, how our the regulatory people around us, the government, the regulatory bodies are they are trying to regulate this. So there are Drug and Cosmetic Act that is in place. There are rules and regulations that are in place as to what you can put in the beauty products, in the skincare products, and the hair care products. And because of that, the immediate side effects of any of this, products can be very much controlled, because so the immediate side effects of these can be very much controlled, and that actually leads to lot of controlled good quality products in our country. However, the long-term effects like the cancer, allergic reactions, hormone disruption, or you can say the reproductive hormones that I usually deal with, the disruption takes place because of the long-term side effects of this. And the author here has mentioned different type of these disruptors, like coal, dyes, like parabens, like mercury, lead, nickel. They have mentioned as to in what product you can find this. So I would like to conclude here mentioning what are the measures that you can take to you cut down the side effects of the products that you can use. Okay, you cannot stop using them on daily basis. So the best thing is, old is gold. Try to stick with natural remedies that are free of chemicals. If you cannot do, make a better choice, make an informed choice, make yourself aware. You read, learn to read the labels. Know what is going on your skin, and take full control of that, so that you can fight this side effects. So I would conclude saying, be aware, be educated, take the responsibility of what goes on your skin, search, read, and know. Choose wisely. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sister. Now we have the last reviewer, who is a human rights lawyer, Manvi Atri, who will be speaking on a psychosocial account of Deviant Minority Sexual Behavior, a critical review. Ma'am, over to you. Manvi Athri. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I had that I'll be speaking about this as well as another piece that was written in the July edition, Dictators of Journalism in India. To speak about both of these pieces and another piece that I think you all sourced from Father Cedric Prakash on hate speech and dog whistling together. And I'm hoping that in the next 5 minutes, I can explain why understanding all three of them together are important. I think in the first piece, that is the dictators of journalism and irresponsible media. I was personally very heartened to see that piece because I am very keenly interested in media regulation. And being a lawyer myself, I don't often see people making ethical arguments for a more responsible media. So this particular piece dealt with the role of Republic Channel in using the imagery of a Florida flood and saying that it took place in India with really graphic imagery. And I think at this time and age, it's very important for a magazine like Aura to continuously watch and critique the news. So I think it's very important, and I think it falls within the realm of looking at self-regulation and asking for more media accountability in a way as well. So I feel in that piece, the facts, the gaps were very well identified. But I think as a lawyer myself, I was thinking that one of the things I really looked for in the piece was that what are the legal frameworks within which one can think about such kind of media coverage? And what is it that people who are reading your magazine can also do when they see such coverage? Because I understand that you do have a wide readership, and the fact that you're able to so consistently put out editions is a huge something to pat yourselves on the back for, because it's not easy to consistently put out written editions of such huge lengthy magazines and difficult topics. So keeping that in mind, I think that piece really demanded that there be a look at legal frameworks and look at what are the other kind, and continue that kind of writing on media. So I also looked at some other editions and saw that that there was some efforts to look at doing the review of whatever the media coverage and culling out the patterns of the kind of media coverage was happening. But my only suggestion would be that if it could happen more consistently, and if it could look at specifically channels that have large viewership, could look at their advertisers, their ownerships. And so there is really a series of articles that's possible with a magazine like Aura on something like this. So and keeping that in the back of the mind, I think the article on hate speech and dog whistling and the difference between the two, because you also in the first piece refer to how communal tensions are so routinely flared up in these TV newsrooms. And the piece on hate speech and dog whistling really talks about how the difference between the two is, and while hate speech is actionable in law, dog whistles, which are also something that we heard from an MP just a day or two ago in the parliament, those kind of dog whistles, which were not dog whistles but were actually hate speech. That difference that is there, I think that difference is what one needs to articulate and make an argument for, saying that the media actually makes these dog whistles in their newsroom. So whatever kind of coverage they did for, say, for example, when the riots happened and the demolitions that happened thereafter, to look at the question of how do you look at dog whistles and how do you compare dog whistles, hate speech, and look at the media in the background of that. And why I think this is important also when we talk about, say, for example, the article on the psychosocial account of deviant sexual behaviors. It's because I think I come from a training of being a lawyer, and something that I found slightly unsettling for me was that having studied constitutional law and knowing very well that Section 377 has been read down, and that the Supreme Court itself has recognized the right to love across gender, and looking beyond the necessity of looking at binaries, looking beyond the question of it being alleged to be natural and unnatural. I found it unsettling that that piece did not look at the very critical perspective that the 2018 judgment of Navdeep offered us in looking at the right to love, in looking at the freedom of choice, in looking at the freedom of speech and expression, and by way of not looking at the law in a progressive manner, in looking at the issue of what you all I'd call to be sexually deviant behaviors, I think the terminology itself gets skewed. Homosexuality need not necessarily be looked at and cannot actually be looked at sexually deviant behaviors when it comes to the perspective of equality and law and dignity. And by way of calling that sexually deviant behavior, it is actually a form of dog whistle in a way. And that is really the argument that I wanted to make, that one, while looking at the question of homosexuality, LGBTQI issues, and keeping in mind the context of Islamophobia and the difference between hate speech and dog whistle, a magazine like Aura really needs to interrogate its own position on how do you understand homosexuality, how does the law understand it, and how do you possibly reconcile the positions of religion and law in that sense. So that would be sort of my ask of the editors and the team as well, to specifically also look at how do you because all of the arguments that are there, especially there in the psychosocial account of deviant sexual behaviors, the piece that's written by, I think, 2 doctors, it says, all of those narratives actually find substantive responses in the Supreme Court judgment. And so it comes across as if that being the only understanding possible, and that being the only accurate understanding, which I feel is could be the readers could benefit if those arguments were engaged with by the responses of the court. And by looking at the right to love, by looking at the freedom of speech and expression, by looking at how the question of even interfaith and intercaste marriages is so tied down to sort of relationships that don't sort of suit the social structures and religious structures in a way. So I think with that, I will stop. But I hope that I see more critical engagement with the law and human rights lawyering, with especially landmark judgments of the Supreme Court, because I feel in this day and age, one needs to engage with the law and courts. And I feel that especially with your young readership, I understand diverse readership, one needs to engage with that question. And so, say, for example, whether it's the new proposed women reservation bill and the challenges of when it's implemented, or when it is to look at the proposed criminal law amendments and the overhaul, I feel those, as well as the new UAPA judgment that gave Arun Ferreira and Vernon Gonzalez bail, all of these decisions, I think, are very important to understand the question of rights, and rights not just people who look like us, talk like us, but rights of people who are beyond our understanding as well. And that may be political prisoners, that may be people from tribal communities, marginalized groupings. I think that is a necessary thing for a magazine like this. And with that, I'll stop, and happy to engage, and really looking forward to more editions of all.
Thank you so much, Manvi. We have come to the end part of our session, for which for presidential address, I would like to call Rahmatun-Nisa, who is the chief editor of Aura magazine. Rahmatun-Nisa ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, all of you, and thank you so much, Mubarra, Muhi, Nishat, and Seema Taj, for the wonderful organization and a good line of very good experts. I think, each one of them, we should have given 30 minutes. So that means each one of them had to say, and they all had are very experienced personalities and experts. But unfortunately, in a program like this,
Auntie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It got mute.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, Mubarra, Nishat, Seema Taj, and all the wonderful speakers. We have got a very good lineup of speakers. What I was telling is we should have given at least 30 minutes to each speaker. Each one is very experienced, and they all came up with very good suggestions. I think they all took it very seriously. That shows their sincerity in whatever field they are working. And I really believe and I hope that, I wish that we will be able to engage and work together for the betterment of our society in future also. Aura's pages are open for you. You can send your comments, reviews, your articles, and whatever you feel, even your audios and videos, because we have this embedded audios and videos also. So that way we can give space. We believe, we at Aura believe in giving space to everyone, everyone's opinion from different. Of course, we also have a policy, but based on the policy, we want to give space to everyone and we want to be inclusive with all. Even though this magazine is coming from a Muslim platform, Muslim background, it doesn't mean that the magazine is only for Muslims or only Muslim issues we are handling. Whatever is an issue or whatever is good for the entire society, entire community, we are giving space to. And another thing is like it is, even though it's a women's magazine run by women, we don't want to confine it, just like our sub-editor said, we don't want to confine it to the so-called stereotype women topics. Because which topic is, can we alienate from women? Every topic is a woman's topic, whether it is children, whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is men's mental health, whether it is the rights of a man. Nowadays, we see a lot of men being arrested without any reason. So that affects the woman more than the man. So every issue is a woman's issue. That's what we believe. And that is the main reason for the variety of topics, because we believe that on this point also, on this topic also, our women readers should get educated. Starting with Dr. Marwa Khan, the additional points that she gave, I think that must have benefited our audience. And her point on mental diet, I think that is really, that must have given food for thought to our viewers. Mental diet, that is something really very, very important. And then Dr. Dhanlashmi, she also spoke about the chose the article on the mental development of children. And the youth, actually nowadays the youth, the children and the youth, their mental health is getting very much affected. Not because of social media. People say that it is because of social media. It is not because of the social media, but because of the social and political atmosphere of the entire society and their nation, and which the reflection of which we see in social media and media. See, social media or media as such is not bad. Whatever is bad in the society is affecting, it is getting reflected in the social media and it is reaching, and our children are reading them and it is affecting them. So we need to work on it and we need to give substitutions. We need to give more and more of the positive stuff, positive reading material to our children. That is what we aim at. And Sister Amina Azhar, being a journalist herself, she commented very well on the editorial and her suggestions are being very well noted. It is true what you said regarding, some magazines follow the policy of making the editorial engaging with the readers, and then the cover story where they want to focus on the topic that they want to tell the readers of that month. And some magazines follow like, they have editors desk separately. And then the editorial is like an independent article where they want to, whichever topic they want to highlight and talk about for that month. So we now follow this policy. It doesn't mean that
Auntie, are you there? Rehmatunisa auntie? Is my voice audible for everyone?
Yeah, you're audible, but I think
maybe it's
there's some issue on
network
her end.
issue.
Yeah, we can wait for a few. A minute. I think she's trying to rejoin. Yeah, she has rejoined.
Yeah, very sorry, I got disconnected. Some work is going on here because of that. The power got some fluctuations.
Yes, Auntie, you can continue.
Yeah. And then coming to Madhu Bhushan, she spoke really well from her experience and expertise. And what she said is really correct, that the text will not make any change in the society. The context is important, and how that is being the application, the practical application of the text. And then there are things, even though they come from very old, right from the creation of mankind, from Adam and Hawa, we can say, right from day one and till today, there are certain values which are, really relevant even even in the most modern, wherever you live and whichever condition you are. Certain values are universal, but there are certain things which, as per the context, we have to go for changes, and that change we need to bring in society, and that is what even Aura is aiming at, and Aura is trying for. And of course, we will try to do that. And then our next speaker, Geetha Viji, she was talking about the artificial intelligence, the article on artificial intelligence and technology. What you said is really true. We cannot turn back to all the technology and AI and say that, no, we will not accept it. We need to take it, and as has been said by many, pointed out by many, technology or artificial intelligence is just not going to replace human beings, or it is not going to replace teachers, but the education system. But definitely, if we don't master this artificial intelligence and technology, we will be cornered. That is for sure. So your point on building a child and bringing a child is something which we need to ponder about. I think there is room for another article in Aura with this topic, and really it was beneficial. And Sister Swaliha also, I think she selected another issue of Aura, the special issue, and she spoke about the popular shows in America. And what she commented is really correct. Similar articles on Indian context that should come. So whoever is listening, if anyone is interested in writing, they should write. And such articles also should come. We need to point out what is happening in the Indian media also. There is a lot to write about. There is a lot to comment about, whether it is cinema or TV shows, wherever it is. And then Dr. Tahsin Malik, regarding cosmetics, she being an expert in the field of medicine, out of her experience, she enriched the article, and by sharing her own experience and expertise. And our sister Manavi, I really appreciate your patience. You were waiting for till the last moment until all the speakers finish, and you came up. You were commenting on 3 articles, and your expectation on Aura working on more legal related or human rights related articles, definitely we will work on it, and we welcome you also to come up with suggestions and contributions, and even you can tell people to write, and we will definitely be able to publish. So thank you so much, all of you. And we at Aura believe in growing day by day. There is no end to our growth. There is no end to perfection. Excellence is a journey, and it is the valuable input and feedback of all of you that makes Aura something useful and readable for our readers. As long as it is readable and useful, we will continue this great work. And one great thing that I would like to say here is all the good words that you spoke about the articles. It would definitely boost the morale of our writers who write for nothing. They don't take any money, nor they are not no worldly benefit, but for the sake of doing it, they understand that this is their duty. to educate the society, and they write their articles. So definitely it would have, encouraged them and built confidence in them, and your suggestions would have definitely benefited them. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, all of you. Jazakumullah khair. May God bless all of you. And please don't wait for meetings as such. You can always comment and send your feedback at any time. Whenever you open and read any article, you're always welcome. Thank you very much. You can conclude.
Thank you, Ramatunisa Saiba. Already we are running out of time. I apologize due to network issues. We have extended our session today. Without taking much time, I would jump to the end of our program. It's a time for vote of thanks. On behalf of Aura Readers Club, I extend very heartily vote of thanks to all the speakers for sharing your findings and opinions with us today. It was beautifully, very beautifully reviewed. Our experts reviewed the articles very beautifully. And once again, we are grateful for our speakers present today, being with us this evening. It has been a great pleasure. I also thank for our audience, each and everyone who are listening. Interestingly, we hope you will be continuing this sessions further. And thank you for making our program a great success. I would like to end my words or end today's program. Before ending, I would like to thank our chief editor, Ramatunisa auntie, and also our sub editor Shaima, also the organizers, and each and everyone who struggled for making this program successful. I hope our audience, we, everyone together will take Aura magazine to a next level. Thank you once again. Here we end our session.
Thank you very much.